Hello students, I am Sheetal Singh from Panchsheel Balak Inter College, and today we will continue our first chapter of class 10th book Footprint Without Feet. It's a supplementary book and the chapter name is Triumph of Surgery by James Herriot. And yesterday we have read James Herriot was really worried to see the dog Tricky. He was very fat. His eyes were red and rheumy. Mrs. Pumphrey, the mistress of Tricky, had been giving him malt, cod liver oil, and a bowl of Horlicks every night. James Herriot found that the only fault was Tricky was his greed for food. The doctor advised Mrs. Pumphrey to cut down his food rightly and give him exercise daily. Within a few days, the doctor received a call from Mrs. Pumphrey. Tricky was not eating anything and was vomiting again and again. He lay down panting and did not go for a walk. James Herriot suggested Mrs. Pumphrey that Tricky must be hospitalized for about a fortnight. So, now we will continue our chapter. The entire staff was roused and maids rushed in and out bringing his day bed, his night bed, favorite cushions, toys and rubber rings, breakfast bowls, lunch bowls and supper bowls. The entire means whole. Staff was roused and maids rushed in and out bringing his day bed, his night bed, favorite cushions, toys, rubber rings, breakfast bowl, lunch bowl, supper bowl. Realizing that my car would never hold all the stuff, I hear James Herriot. I started to drive away. As I moved off, Mrs. Pumphrey, with a despairing cry, threw an armful of the little coats through the window. I looked in the mirror before I turned the corner of the drive. Everybody was in tears. All the house helpers started to get together the blankets, rug, bowls, coats, etc. that they thought Tricky might need during his hospitalization. James started to drive off as he knew that his car could not carry so many things. All that Mrs. Pumphrey managed to put were a few of his coats. Tricky left for the hospital, leaving his caretakers behind in tears. Out on the road, I glanced down at the pathetic little animal gasping on the seat by my side. I petted the head and Tricky made a brave effort to wag his tail. Poor old lad, I said, you have not a kick in you, but I think I know a cure for you. Cure means here treatment. and wag, shake. At the surgery, the household dogs surged round me. Tricky looked down at the noisy pack with dull eyes and went put down, lay motionless on the carpet. The other dogs, after sniffing, sniffing means making sound, round him for a few seconds, decided he was an uninteresting object and ignored him. At the surgery, the household dogs surged around Tricky. He sees them lying motionless and motionless. I made up a bed for him in a warm, loose box next to the one where the other dogs slept. For 2 days, I kept an eye on him, giving him no food but plenty of water. At the end of the second day, he started to show some interest in his surroundings, and on the third, he began to whimper when he heard the dogs in the yard. At the surgery, the household dogs search around Tricky. He sees them lying motionless, and a bed for Tricky is made in a warm, loose box. For 2 days, no food is given to him, but a plenty of water. Only, only a plenty of water. On the second day, he starts taking some interest in his surroundings. On the third day, he begins to whimper when he hears the dog in the yard. Tricky start taking a walk around the bowls, licking casually inside one or two of them. When I opened the door, Tricky trotted When I opened the door, Tricky trotted out and was immediately engulfed by Joe. Trotted means hair moved and was immediately engulfed means encircled. Engulfed meaning hair, encircled by Joe the greyhound and his friends. After rolling him over and thoroughly means fully. Inspecting him, the dogs moved off down the garden. Tricky followed them, rolling slightly. Slightly means here a little bit. Slightly means a little bit with his surplus fat. Later that day, I was present at feeding time. I watched while Tristan slopped the food into the bowls. Slopped means spilled the food into the bowls. There was the usual headlong rush, followed by the sound of high speed eating. Every dog knew that if he fell behind the others, he was liable to have some competition for the last part of his meal. As later on, third day, he ran with enthusiasm when the food was served. He also gulped down the extra food that was put out for him. So now we can see that his recovery was speeding up. He had started running all day long and found joy in being bowled over the squelched. In spite of being a high maintenance dog, he had fitted in well with the gang of shabby and unkempt ones. So, as we will see that Tricky was kept on a strict diet in the hospital. His diet was increased according to the improvements he showed. Here you can also see in the picture also, as for 2 days Mr. Harriet kept an eye on Tricky and gave him no food but plenty of water. Next day, the doctor was pleased to see Tricky jostling his way to his food bowl. No medical treatment was given to Tricky, and that was the truth. That no medical treatment was given to Tricky. Tricky's progress was rapid, and he started running about the dogs, joining in their friendly barking. When they had finished, Tricky took a walk round the shining bowls, licking casually inside one or two of them. And next day, an extra bowl was put out for him, and I was pleased. James Harriet was very happy. I was pleased to see him jostling his way towards it. From then on, his progress was rapid. Rapid means swift. He had no medical treatment of any kind, but all day he ran about with the dogs, joining in their friendly scrimmages. Scrimmages means fights, friendly fights, friendly fights of dogs. He discovered the joys of being bowled over, tramped on and squelched every few minutes. He became an accepted member of the gang, an unlikely, silky little object among the shaggy crew, fighting like a tiger for his share at meal times and hunting rats in the old hen house at night. He had never had such a time in his life. So, here we will see now he mixed up with other dogs. He enjoyed being rolled over. He became a member of the gang. At home, he had almost no exercise, but at the surgery, he had a lot of exercise and fun. Controlled diet and activities made him active again. So, this was the explanation of part 2. And students, you have to revise this chapter thoroughly, and tomorrow we will continue this chapter. Thank you all.